One must remember that even Narendra Modi was a RSS pracharak. But as a PM, as an administrator, the way he was running the government and the way the Nagpur wanted him, there has been a variation.
I will say that Modi has become, a kind of a thorn in the throat of the RSS, that neither can they swallow him and completely, have no association with him, nor can they take him out.
Simplicity and frugalness is very much the foundations of the RSS, right? So, do you still see these kind of values even existing even today?
They would be in very simple clothes. They will be sleeping only on simple mattress, and in their room you won't find anything except some RSS literature and some books strewn around them. You won't find anything flashy. I mean, that's the kind of an RSS, Swayamsevak's image was, at least in my mind, in our minds as a reporter. But I think being in power in last 2014 onwards, things certainly seem to have changed.
I'm Srinivasan. This is Talking Sense with Srini, special edition, and we are discussing the 100 years of Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, an organization that started off in the humble city of Maharashtra's Nagpur, which has now become a heavyweight that's powering the Bharatiya Janata Party. From its distinct idea of India to its decisive role in nation's political turns, we'll explore the RSS's past, present and the future. And joining us to decode further is our editor-in-chief, Mr. Srinivasan, and also with him is senior journalist and author, Mr. Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on TheFederal. Thank you. Okay, let me begin with Srinivasan, sir. There, the Sangh's political chair, the Bharatiya Janata Party, has become too big, too confident, and even too independent under Prime Minister Modi's leadership in the last 11 years, right? Do you still think that the RSS is even relevant in this Modi era?
You're right in the sense that BJP has become stronger, but I would just correct it here. Basically, what you're trying to say is become too big, too confident is largely because of one underlying factor. As far as relationship with RSS is concerned, it is Narendra Modi.
That's right.
Prime Minister, before even become Prime Minister, even when he was in Gujarat, the kind of friction between RSS and Modi had begun. They had certain difference of opinion then and there as well. But then subsequently later as become Prime Minister, you could see that Modi had actually overgrown. His personality has become so large that a point came where BJP leaders, some of them, at least I can specifically name their party president JP Nadda, began to believe that they don't need RSS anymore. In fact, he said this explicitly before the parliament elections. Therefore, electorally BJP had to pay for that, but the point here is that RSS has always been the ideological bedrock of BJP. One must remember that even Narendra Modi was a RSS pracharak. He has come from those ranks only, and almost all the top leaders have come from that particular stable only. So they are all aligned to that. But as a PM, as an administrator, the way he was running the government and the way the Nagpur wanted him, there has been a variation. But if you look at larger policy issues, whether it is what is it RSS biggest agenda is to make India a Hindu nation. So that agenda is largely the bedrock of RSS, and that is what it wants BJP to fulfill. And BJP has been attempting to fulfill many of these aspirations through various policy decisions in the government. That's what BJP is doing. Therefore, there is a symbiotic relationship, but then this element of these differences have come between Modi and the RSS, which are visible, but then they also kind of as of now they have seemed to have made up to some extent.
Okay, I'm going to take that particular point forward with Nilanjan sir now. So there is some kind of rupture between Prime Minister Modi and the RSS top leadership Mohan Bhagwat in this case. Recently, we saw that the RSS was visibly upset about the independence that the BJP has, within its party. Mohan Bhagwat rebuked that a true sevak is never arrogant, widely seen as a wheel jibe against Prime Minister Modi. He also called for retirement after 75, again another indirect attack against Prime Minister. We also saw similar kind of frictions between Vajpayee and the then RSS leadership, K.S. Sudarshan, during the Vajpayee years. But unlike then, under the Modi-Shah duo, you see the BJP has been able to exponentially grow itself into newer geographies, electorally as well. Has the BJP outgrown the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh?
The question is not, should not be that has the BJP. BJP is not synonymous with Modi. Modi definitely has become a bigger figure than the RSS is today. But in the Modi era, especially since 2014 onwards, the BJP organization has also been destroyed to a great extent by Mr. Modi, the style of functioning. You have to go back to understand my formulation. From the time that the BJP was formed in 1980, it was known for a collegial style of functioning, which is that various senior leaders would sit together, have a discussion, and come to a common agreement, and then that decision would be taken through the rank and file of the organization. That collective spirit of the party has completely disappeared. Now it is a decision of one which is communicated to a group, a team of two people, and those two people's job is basically, when I say two people, it's essentially Mr. Amit Shah, who was the president between 2014 and 2019, and subsequently JP Nadda, who has been the president of the BJP thereafter. So these two people are the ones who actually take the decision which has already been taken either alone by Mr. Modi or in consultation with the two of them, and then taken through the rank and file of the organization. Now, instead of talking about specifics, we have to understand, if you want to take a really bird's eye view, I will say that Modi has become, a kind of a thorn in the throat of the RSS, that neither can they swallow him and completely, have no association with him, nor can they take him out, and extricate and replace with anything else. Because Modi remains very much the ideological fulfiller. If you look at 2014 onwards, the BJP has implemented two of the three most contentious issues that were there on the wish list of the BJP through the 1990s. That is Ram Temple and the abrogation of Article 370. This has been done. Uniform Civil Code, the third item on the wish list, which was also a very contentious one, has already been done in some of the states. Uttarakhand, for instance, has a uniform civil code, and it is being said that it is quite possible that the BJP is going to go around with the strategy of having the uniform civil code come down from the state level to a central level. That is going on. There are various other ideological push being given, the one like, for instance, the CAA in 2019, Citizenship Amendment Act, it links the Indian citizenship with religious identity. That definitely was a major push of the Hindutva agenda. This was never done before because India chose to be secular nation and citizenship was never linked with religious identity. And the latest is that on the 15th of August, Independence Day speech, Mr. Modi repeated the old campaign line of the entire Sangh Parivar, RSS and others, that infiltrators are coming in from the east, from the northeast, from Bangladesh very specifically. And to be able to study this problem, we are going to be appointing a high-powered demographic commission, which is essentially to create, a fear of the Islamists. The Muslims are coming and taking over the demography of the country, that they are ultimately going to reduce the Hindus into a minority. That is the fear they are inculcating, and they want to harness this fear into an electoral support. That is what is being done. All these issues are being done by Mr. Modi, which is implementing the RSS agenda. But as far as the style of functioning, it is completely autocratic, it is not consensual, no consultation is there, and that is what actually is not very comforting for the RSS. It would want at least to be consulted on certain matters. That is why we have seen a tussle going on between them, at least from February 2024 onwards. That is what we are seeing. And I see that over the next 1 year at least, that this is something which we will have to keep tracking to see what kind of developments are taking place. I do not think that the RSS would be in a position to, actually challenge the leadership of Mr. Modi till the time they feel that the support for Hindutva has crossed a certain threshold limit, that they do not require any individual leader to be able to carry forward the narrative of Hindutva.
Yeah. Before going further, I would like to add a point. See, RSS has proved again and again in the past too. So, if you take, during emergency in 1977, they backed the entire Jayaprakash Narayan movement. And then in 1984, they went and supported Mrs. Gandhi because they thought that it was very important for the survival of the nation, because there was a fear that the country may break. In 2004, again when the Vajpayee was the Prime Minister at the end of his thing, then again there was a tension and he lost the election. Then 2024 again, there was a little jolt given that BJP on its own couldn't get a complete majority. So RSS did prove, and this was after JP Nadda's statement which I referred to earlier, that making it very clear that RSS support is extremely important for BJP to electorally win. See, these contradictory postures which RSS has taken because of its bigger worldview, which it thinks that that beyond electoral politics, their philosophy is that they are building this nation. But then of late, they also seem to have become kind of complacent, in the sense that the last decision they took in 2024, after that, after the jolt, there was a meeting between RSS headquarters and Delhi perhaps, and then you could see the subsequent elections in which RSS once again played an active role, and therefore BJP could easily win. For instance, they could win Haryana, Maharashtra, Delhi, these elections you saw. So therefore, it's been kind of proven by RSS that their importance in the electoral side of BJP's.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I also wanted to ask you, sir, on the RSS tryst with history, and RSS biggest cultural project is to enter into the sort of history books, to tell its own versions of its history, something that the critics have always worried about, and not just books but also science and archaeological findings, and even economy for that matter. Have they managed to achieve what they anticipate to achieve over the years?
Well, it is very difficult to say whether they are fully achieved. It's an ongoing process, but I would say that at least in the case of altering history, getting into history textbooks, they have managed to change quite a bit. This has been an ongoing project for them. So there even in the case of archaeology, the various narratives, which is, if there is a certain way, the Saraswati River project and the way Kiredi, which Tamil Nadu government is saying, right, they have their own worldview on all these issues. So certainly these are all issues in which BJP seem to have, RSS through BJP seem to have achieved some success. But two things I think really stand out. One is economy. I don't think they have been able to, though on economic issue there is a divergence between Modi government and RSS. For instance, Trump's emphasis on import of say milk, he wants to export milk, but RSS won't agree because they think that the cows or the buffaloes there are fed with animal protein. And therefore, they stoutly oppose that. So, there is a certain opposition. On economic policy, I think there is a complete utter confusion. I don't think they have been able to formulate any particular policy on that. Again, in the field of science and technology, a lot of theories which float around, but still I think it is one area which is beyond the comprehension of the RSS, the way they want to deal with it. The other thing which is very stark now, besides these two, is the way they are dealing with geopolitics. And perhaps I am sure Nilanjan is a better person to further speak on this. The way the relationship with the world we are seeing right now and whatever it's happening with Trump seem to be one big fallout of that.
Okay. Nilanjan sir, your thoughts?
No, what Srinivasan was saying is absolutely correct. Basically, economy is something, on which the RSS and the BJP have not had a very clear idea right from the 1990s. I remember that as reporters, we were asked by our editors, to go and find out about the BJP's economic policy, because it was the second largest party in parliament. This is just a few months after Manmohan Singh presented his, the great reforms budget, of 1991. So there was at that time, for the global order, there was this World Trade Organization was in the process of coming up. The previous agreement which was there under GATT, General Agreement on Trades and Tariffs, that was coming to an end, and the WTO was coming up, and there was a draft in the form of Dunkel draft named after the Secretary General of GATT, I think at that point. So I do remember some of us reporters asking Mr. Advani, who is the leader of opposition, that what is the BJP's stand on the Dunkel draft? Do you support it, or which are the clauses on which you disagree? So he had kind of looked very blankly at all of us and said, and smiled and said that this is actually suggestion for action, which meant that the BJP had not thought that they had. And so it happened that within a week there was an economic expert committee which was set up, which studied all that, and in about 2 months' time they came up with a very preliminary position of the BJP on the Dunkel draft. Simultaneously, what was happening is that in the 1990s, the economic aggressive lot within the Sangh Parivar under the leadership of this great stalwart, on the economic and the trade union front, Dattopant Tengri, they established the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, and they started collaborating with the two communist parties and all other radical elements which are there as far as economy was concerned. And they were the people who were protesting against WTO formation, against India becoming a signatory to all those new agreements which was coming up. So there was a complete divergence between the BJP and the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, and this continued in the 6 years that Mr. Vajpayee was the Prime Minister. This was actually one of the reasons as to why the Vajpayee government, continued with the same process of economic liberalization, but there was a constant amount of, tension between what we call the Parivar and the BJP. So we had the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, we had the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, the two largest, and of course the Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, which is the largest trade union of the country, coupled with also the Farmers Union. So the Bharatiya Kisan Sangh. So these four organizations actually created a lot of problems for the Vajpayee government, and actually as 2004 election neared and the BJP came up with this India Shining slogan, these four organizations contributed to say that India is not shiny, India has become very dull. And that is the reason as to why the BJP did not do very well and was overtaken by the Congress party in terms of emerging as the largest party. It was a very narrow gap, 145 and 138 Lok Sabha seats in the 2004 elections. But that was enough for the BJP to be voted out of parliament and sit in opposition, and for the Congress to have its Prime Minister as Manmohan Singh. So there have been internal problems, and yes, absolutely true that they do not really have a great vision on economy as for also the world. Mr. Modi's, I'll be very quickly just take you through the thrust of Mr. Modi's foreign policy since 2014. It's essentially been on personal rapport building. He goes, the hugs, the handshakes, and the that is exactly when he goes abroad, he's sending a message back to his electoral constituency that look, I am being respected in the world, so it is not me It's the Indian people who are being respected by the world, and whereas previous governments completely failed in that, I have enhanced the respect and reputation of the Indian passport. These are the kind of narratives which are driven through the social media. It's a different thing that in the ranking of passports, if you actually look at it, the Indian passport has declined in the last few years. But that is the kind of messaging which is done. And the reason why the global leaders accepted Mr. Modi was that he would go to them and actually from their territory say that he was the representative of 1.4 billion people, the largest democracy in the world. So it was a two-way kind of a thing. He would go there and say that you respect me, you get me, give me a good space within the League of Nations because I represent 1.4 billion people. And here he would say that, look, I'm being, quoted by all these people. I laugh around. Even in when his the latest visit to China, that very famous photograph which had Mr. Modi laughing very loudly, and you had a fairly sober Putin and Xi Jinping in the same frame. So that is the kind of thing. But now it is all coming unstuck. I would really like to see 6 months ahead. Where are we? I think the chaos is only going to increase. And Mr. Modi's problems, as far as foreign policy, diplomacy, international trade, has only just begun.
Okay. Okay, so let's also focus about the idea of RSS, which is also, about nation building. Some of the RSS affiliated schools, sort of run saying that the motto is to of the man making education. They say it. Simplicity and frugalness is very much is the foundations of the RSS, right? So do you still see these kind of values even existing even today within the RSS top brass or even within the RSS as an organization?
Look, Vijay, I remember when we used to cover BJP, we would go to their office in Ashoka Road, and then the press conference will happen in a separate room. The top leaders like Mr. L.K. Advani, Vajpayee would be sitting in their chambers. We go and meet them. After that, sometimes we would, we'd retreat to their, the rear of the building where there would be individual quarters. We'll go there to meet individual leaders. Some of them were from RSS, and they still followed the way of life, the frugal way of life which RSS used to follow. They would be in very simple clothes. They will be sleeping only on simple mattress, and in their room you won't find anything except some RSS literature and some books strewn around them. You won't find anything flashy. I mean, that's the kind of an RSS, Swayamsevak's image was, at least in my mind, in our minds as a reporter, that they really lead a very simple life. Even the run up to Ram Janmabhoomi agitation, I had this chance of interacting with several leaders. They maintained a very simple kind of look and feel. That's what they gave. But I think being in power in last 2014 onwards, things certainly seem to have changed. If you remember, at some point of time there was even a very sharp jibe from Rahul Gandhi called Soot Boot Ki Sarkar, which happened because Mr. Narendra Modi was wearing a kind of a designer suit, which came under severe criticism. After that, there was also a kind of fear which developed in the BJP, perhaps this government is being slightly elitist. So they did a lot of other things to kind of change that perception. So coming back to your question of how RSS has changed, I've just before coming here I read Nilanjan's piece, Frontline, where he has actually, the whole preface is about the entire RSS new building which has come up. That's right. The flashy building. Of course, the whole lifestyle of the RSS cadres, from being, perhaps they were going on trains, now aeroplanes, maybe reserved front seats, SUVs. Lots of things have changed for them.
Okay. I think I can ask this question, Nilanjan sir, as well. How do you see Mr. Mohan Bhagawat's, the Sarsang Chalak's, sort of lifestyle right now compared to its founding fathers, be it Hedgewar or MS Golwalkar? You see drastic changes?
Yeah. A lot has changed, and a lot of change would be natural. Yes, politics now. I remember what Mr. Advani told a few of us, that after Bofors, Indian politics is on a fast forward mode. So the pace of politics has increased. With social media, with technology, it's become even faster. You now have the unthinkable. You do have leaders landing up in a foreign country early in the morning, flying 7 hours, 8 hours, spending the whole day, and before night returning back. Not spending the night there. It's a very standard kind of routine which leaders are doing essentially for one-on-one bilateral meetings that is going on. So I would not really say that traveling by planes is something very bad, but the question is what is the message? What Srinivasan was saying about the new RSS building, Keshav Kunj used to be actually, is the headquarter of the RSS in Delhi and has actually also been the place where from a lot of power politic moved in the years that the RSS came close to it. But now, if you go there, it is nothing less than a corporate building, and completely jazzed up. Definitely does not in any way remotely look similar to the similar buildings which is there, the headquarter of the RSS in Nagpur, and also the Smriti Bhavan, which is the place where Hedgewar and Golwalkar were cremated. There is a bigger memorial for Hedgewar and a much smaller memorial for Golwalkar. There is no memorial for the Sarsanchalaks after that, because Devra said that hereafter, after the first two, from me onwards, we will not be cremated in any other place except our own hometown, village. That is where we are cremated. We are to be cremated. That is how it has been done. So, there was a certain amount of an austerity which has really completely disappeared. And it's now pomp and show. You can see actually every member of the BJP wearing designer clothes. What Srinivasan was referring to, Mr. Modi's infamous suit, was actually unthinkable. How could the Prime Minister of India decide to meet the President of the United States of America wearing a suit which had nothing but his own name inscribed, woven on it from top to bottom? How could he do that? What level of personality cult was he trying to promote? Those are issues which which also troubles the RSS greatly. Of course, the RSS leaders also wear better clothes, more regularly ironed clothes. All those are available because the world has also changed. Politics has also changed, in which the facade is also very important across all parties at the moment. And even earlier, we will see that leaders used to dress up right from Nehru's time. He wore very, you know, ethnic good clothes. Indira Gandhi also had the choicest saris. So it's not really, I would not grudge that, but the question is that along with that, what kind of an attitude are you trying to promote? What is the extent to which you are really, in terms of policies, are you actually trying to lift up the poorest among the Indians? What we can see definitely in the last 11 years has happened, that a very small 1% or maybe even less than that has become much more richer, and the poor has become much poorer. The disparity levels in India are the highest ever that has ever been seen, and I do not think that the government is doing anything except distributing money and food. Dole and charity has become the only way that this government has succeeded. Where are the policies? Where are the programs? Where are the jobs? Those are big questions which are there, very important.
Okay.
So, yes, these are major issues.
Okay. Let me ask you there. We spoke about the RSS tryst with history, but there are troubles as well. RSS has been long viewed as an organization that has had very little to do with the India's independence, right? So, has the Narendra Modi's rise to power accelerated a shift in this particular perception?
No, there is no shift in the perception, because the fact is that history cannot be changed. Let's look at it as the national movement had three real peaks, in terms of period. You had the 1919, 1920, 21, that entire 3 year period of the non-cooperation Khilafat movement. At that particular time, where was the Hindu right wing? They were not participating in that. There were a few people. The RSS had not been established in that particular period. It was established only in 1925. But yes, there were Hindu right wing leaders at that time also. But they were all working through the Congress and not very happy with the kind of mass-based politics which the Congress was getting into after Gandhi took charge. Then we move on to the Dandi March 1930-31, that entire period. The Dandi March followed by the civil disobedience movement. The RSS is absent as an organization. Hedgewar decides that it's too big a movement to ignore. He decides to resign from the position of the Sarsang Chalak, hands over power to somebody else, one of his aides within the RSS, and then joins the movement, but not the main civil disobedience movement, but a local movement called Jangal Satyagraha. He joins it. Nonetheless, we will not grudge it that there is some kind of a nationalist participation, but as an individual, not as an organization. Then come to the biggest one, the Quit India movement. Neither as individuals nor as the organization is the RSS or even the Hindu Mahasabha. By that time, Savarkar has been released from internment in Ratnagiri and has been allowed from 1937 onwards to participate in politics. The Hindu Mahasabha also does not do it. Shama Prasad Mukherjee, who is the minister in Bengal in the government there, does not resign. He's the only government in India which does not resign. All the Congress governments had resigned because they did not want initially to join the Second World War. And when the Quit India movement started, of course, it became straight on a head-on collision against the colonial powers, the colonial administration. But once again, the RSS and the Hindu Mahasabha was completely absent. The basic problem which the Hindu right wing has, right from 1947 onwards, is that they cannot claim to have any part of the legacy of the national movement, which went naturally to the Indian National Congress and other parties, which developed out of various streams of the Congress, which after they left that party, many people left the Congress and went on to form other parties. Charan Singh, for instance, he went on to form his own party. There are many other people. We can talk about it at length. The point is that the RSS feels that there is need to RSS and the BJP feels that there is need to appropriate all these nationalist icons. Now, despite being accused of involvement in the Gandhi assassination case, despite the fact that Nathuram Godse was indoctrinated first within the RSS, despite that Gandhi is supposed to be the one of the major appropriated icons of this government. It's a different thing that Gandhi has been limited to what many people call very snidely as a sanitary inspector because of his limited iconic value only in the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. But basically, the problem is that as far as the freedom struggle is concerned, they really do not have anybody, and that is why they have gone back to discovering Savarkar, V.D. Savarkar, in a big way, because at least before he went into jail and spent almost 15 years, 12 years actually to say, in Andaman cellular jail. Savarkar did have a nationalist past. He was involved in the national movement in while he was in London. Madan Lal Dhingra, who was a very militant nationalist, he was, to a great extent, you know, indoctrinated, trained by Savarkar. So those involvements were there. That's why they've gone back and really discovered V.D. Savarkar, even though he had never joined the RSS in his lifetime, even after being allowed to participate in politics.
Srinivasan, sir, RSS projected itself as some kind of an ultra-nationalist or nationalist organization, but Gandhi and Gandhians saw that as some kind of organization that's spreading hate and sort of communalism there. So but it's been 100 years now. You see that image has changed.
Well, of course, I won't say that the image has changed. In fact, those who been tracking history and the Indian independence history and following that and reading various books on Gandhi, on Nehru and other leaders, and also reading the other side, what the evolution of the Hindu right, they clearly follow that. But what seems to have certainly happened is the perception over the years has certainly been changed. Mahatma Gandhi, he himself felt that Gandhi used to say that whenever RSS stood by what it called as nationalism, Gandhi always and other leaders always kind of looked at and said that it was communalism. They made that clear distinction. But yes, over the period of time, at least in last 10-11 years, there is a kind of constant feeding through social media, constant other publications which have come out and narratives which are being built. A perception is certainly built that BJP did play a very major role. For instance, whether it is Bhagat Singh, for instance, I mean hardly BJP, the RSS had any role in that. But then some of these icons have been borrowed. Even Sardar Patel, for instance,
Bharatiyar.
The
saffron turban.
That's the attempt which is being in Tamil Nadu to saffronize. But many of these freedom icons were kind of bought over or appropriated by BJP. That's been constantly happening. And the perception, at least in the new generation, many of them actually believe who have no exposure to what happened about 100 years ago or what happened about 70, 80 years ago, would have a new perception unless they go back and like he said, history is based on facts. If that's actually followed, then one would certainly see an issue. So there is certainly a lot of work has gone and very systematically being done to change this, alter this perception, and it has begun to play its role as well.
Okay. The RSS and the caste angle, the RSS upholds the idea of Varnashrama Dharma, and we continue to see upper caste dominations even today in the RSS top leadership, but for political compulsion, you also see the OBCs coming into sort of, making it an inclusive organization of sorts. You see that this kind of balancing act might not be sustainable in the longer run, or you think there should be some kind of a changes that should come and creep into RSS? The modernism is much needed right now.
I think this is one issue, the caste issue, which I think RSS finds pretty complex. Even their own formulation in this is, pretty kind of varied from time to time. One of the reasons, I mean, you could see the fallout is they have, the earlier, the first election, of course, more was on majoritarian kind of a kind of messaging which happened. But then later, there was a tweaking in the kind of a political philosophy and more towards, backward politics, where Prime Minister Modi himself began to refer himself as a backward. So there was a certain emphasis. And again, the reality of Uttar Pradesh politics, when BJP realized that it's very difficult to win just on the basis of a majoritarian support, so they did manage to co-opt non-Yadav OBCs, and it was a kind of a social engineering attempted by Amit Shah, and they kind of managed to pull out and then combine with the upper caste and make it into a winning combination. So these attempts with the help of RSS, BJP has been making in several states to win the election. But the critics still feel, and many of them still feel, that basic DNA of RSS remains the same, which believes in a certain caste structure. By very fact that saying it's a unifying force, it seems to belie the fact that actually they go for a more inclusive kind of politics, which you can see in various ways panning out. So for instance, it's even being said that whenever a certain attack happens on Dalit Christians, the question is it on Christianity or is it on Dalits? That's another question which always keeps coming up. So, this is a very complex subject, and another issue is this caste survey, which BJP wasn't, it was initially reluctant, but then when later the political expediency forced them, they happily jumped into. Of course, it is yet to happen. So, these kind of contradictions are, you can see. Then you also see the Bihar SIR, where the citizenship in is always been the whole bedrock of that has been inclusive nature. From that, it is turning out to be more exclusive.
Okay.
So, these kind of subtle changes, and some of them not so subtle, you can see, which has been constantly happening. So, the relationship with caste is pretty complex.
Okay. So, Srinivasan sir says, that there is no inclusivity within the RSS, it remains exclusive. Varnashrama Dharma is in the DNA, despite Prime Minister Modi's clarion calls like, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and all that. Would you agree, would you disagree, sir? Nilanjan sir?
No, I would completely agree. Basically, the outlook of the entire Sangh Parivar is very much a Savarn upper caste attitude which is there. Perforce, they have to widen their social base, even though it has been attempted for a long time. In fact, it is not that Modi and Amit Shah are the ones who have actually started this. This entire process, the argument that the RSS has to reach out to other castes and not be limited to only the upper caste is something which was spelled out by Balasaheb Deoras in a very landmark lecture which he delivered in 1974, 1 year after he became the Sarsang Chalak of the RSS, in which he coined this entire concept of Samrasta and actually saying that the RSS has to go out and get the OBCs and other lower castes on their side. But saying it was very easy, it was never followed up, because within the RSS there was tremendous pressure that not to do it. It was eventually the Meenakshipuram mass conversions to Islam which really pressed the panic button within the RSS, that now if we do not reach out, then they are all going to go and become Muslims. That was the real panic button, and that is why it started. Yet even between 1981, it took all and completely 10 years. It was the first election on which this entire concept of social engineering was coined, was only in the 1991 elections. Srinivasan would remember that K.N. Govindacharya, who was then the general secretary of the party and initially started as a political aide to Mr. Advani, one of the people who was the three most important, Swayamsevaks, Pracharaks actually, loaned out to the BJP from by the RSS was Govindacharya, Narendra Modi, and Sanjay Joshi. All three in different directions, markedly different from each other, not very friendly to one another, moving in different directions, but nonetheless, each contributed greatly to taking the BJP and the ideology of the Sangh forward. That is the time when this entire approach of reaching out to other castes. Kalyan Singh became the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. He was from the OBCs. That is the first time when the BJP sent out the message that not just the upper caste will be our representatives, but even people from the OBCs will be our, chief ministers and other things. Uma Bharti, another person who was actually propped up by the BJP. So many people became top leaders, and that is the kind of social expansion which started. On the 9th of November 1989, when the first Shilanyas was conducted in Ayodhya, it was done by a Dalit Vishwa Hindu Parishad leader, who later on became a member of the trust. The central trust which built the Ram temple in saw that. So it's a kind of an outreach which has happened over the last of several decades, or rather I would say that used more strategically by the Modi Amit Shah combined. But it is not that the idea did not pre-exist within the Sangh Parivar prior to 2014.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Such a pleasure talking to both of you. Thank you.